So bad for Mr. Brightside. I feel so bad for Devontae Adams' managers because that's something really tough to deal with, man. When you have a fucking Ferrari in that trailer park home. That's actually a Bugatti, I think, in the picture. That meme. It's a Bugatti, isn't it? Regardless, bro. Devontae Adams is definitely that Bugatti. He's in a trailer park right now. So let's save this man. Let's save him.
Yeah, I don't think there's much saving. He is not going to get traded.
Fuck, that's so sad.
Oh, we're live on YouTube. All right, we're here.
Live on YouTube.
We've got YouTube going. We'll give some time to get some people in here. We've got TikTok going, so shout out to people watching on TikTok. As a reminder, this is our Week 8 Fantasy Recaps episode where we recap the biggest things in fantasy from Week 8. We'll talk about the impact of a lot of these injuries. We'll go through some panic meters. I think there's definitely players in fantasy right now that you'd be willing to panic on. So we'll talk about that. Talk about some injuries to the quarterbacks and what that means even for maybe some dynasty, what you're looking at.
Bingo.
And yeah, just overall recapping. What up, Josh Pilecki? He's here again. Big fan of the pod.
That man.
NFL guy on TikTok. He said, "What's up? What's up, guys?" So as a reminder, drop your comments if you have any about it. The Bro Council's in here. What's good, fam?
Bro Council.
So make sure to drop your comments if you have any questions about fantasy in Week 8. But we will be going through the biggest things that happen.
The biggest
and smallest. It's crazy in one of my leagues. And I feel like this fantasy season is equivalent to the NFL of today, which when I say that is like there's so much parity. Anyone could win it. In one of my leagues, in a 12-team league, everyone is either 5-3, 4-4, or 3-5.
Yeah, it seems about right.
And I think there's just been so much lack of consistencies in fantasy this year that's the reason that's happening.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm 5-3. There's one guy in our league that has one loss, so I guess that would make him 7-1.
Yeah.
The rest are, like you said, 5-3. There might be 1 6-2, but like there's like 2 or 3 5-3s. Then you got a bunch of right around that range from like 4 wins, 5 wins, 3 wins even. So everybody's kind of in the race, and it's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun. I also think I look at it. The how I would make sense of it is being able to trade for guys that are going to have the highest ceilings week over week. So if you're in a league like that's 5-3, 4-4, and 3-5, you want to find people that are the floors don't matter, because as we've seen with Devontae Adams, there's a guy that we thought had one of the highest floors in fantasy even this year, and early on he did, but then has completely dropped off given the offense. So finding guys that have the highest ceilings, and a guy like Devon Achane or even Jettis, who there is no Kirk Cousins, but someone that might have a super high ceiling, get fed with targets, are people you might need to add in order to possibly get over the hump, because you have no idea
Montez
about
Sweat.
Consistency. Oh, Montez Sweat could be a good tight end.
Yeah. If they put him at tight end, watch out.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about Week 8. Let's do some fantasy recaps. I see a lot of the comments. Make sure to drop it. Justin, by the way, on TikTok says Eagles 34, Dallas 27.
Cowboys 38, Eagles 17.
Beautiful. Okay, so I want to start off with a little bit of a game for you. I took this out of the notes.
Boom.
But I want you to guess this fantasy stat.
I love games, bro.
Guess the fantasy stat.
Boom.
All right? Can you name the top 5 quarterbacks in fantasy since week 4?
Since week 4?
Week 4.
Oh,
come on. These are easy ones. You know this, but it's you got this. I believe in you.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is number 2.
See, look, 1 for 1.
That's what I'm saying, bro. You know this. This is not a trick question. It's just like, can you name them? You might be able to. You might not.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is number 1. Number 1
I'm
quarterback
good at
in
this.
fantasy since then. Yep.
Joseph Burrow.
Joseph Burrow, absolutely not there.
No?
Joe Burrow.
He's been hot lately.
Not there, but since week 4.
Still.
No, Joe Burrow. They've had a bye, keep in mind, so that could have affected it. But no, he is definitely not there.
Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott, I am so sorry to let you know, is not there.
Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs, if this was September, would have been there. But this is not September. This is October. We are getting into November.
Got you.
He is not there.
Okay, let me go around.
Use your brain. Here we go. Top 5 quarterbacks in fantasy since week 4.
Since week 4.
Spit it out. Come on.
Stafford.
No.
Terrible week this week. I know.
Bro, two major guys you're missing.
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes is there. Patrick Mahomes is 5 on that list.
But you said top 4.
I said top 5.
Oh, top 5. Okay, so Mahomes. All right, now I'm missing 2.
You're missing 2.
2. Will Levis is not playing. CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud is not there, my friend. Come on, who's your boy? Oh! Come on.
Mac Jones.
No! Name the quarterback.
Tua Tagovailoa.
I wish, but no.
My boy Justin Fields is my boy.
Who is arguably the best passer as a running back in the NFL?
Lamar
Jackson. Okay, Lamar.
He had a bad week this past week.
Lamar's
fantasy wise.
But fantasy,
But he
he's in
popped
that
off the
top
week
5.
before. He had like 30
Now,
plus.
you're missing the QB3 overall since week 4.
Is this the surprise? It's like,
This is the
ooh.
surprise. Guess the fantasy
Why we
stat
do this one.
because of this one player.
Well, it's
Can
not
you
Trevor
guess it?
Lawrence.
It's definitely not. Just fire away.
PJ Walker.
Bro. Come on.
Kenny Pickett.
Would you like me to just tell you?
Can you give me a hint?
Okay. Well,
I'm gonna guess bad quarterback.
NFC.
NFC. Kirk Cocaine.
No, but RIP to his Achilles.
Kirk
Kirk Cocaine is crazy though. That nickname goes stupid. Kirk Cocaine, bro. Oh Lord.
Can you give me another hint? Division.
No, because it's gonna give it away.
Did I say Geno Smith already?
You bet on this team
Brock
in
Purdy.
week 8.
I bet on them in week 8.
Yeah, you bet on this team.
This past week.
This past week, you bet on this team. Who is the last person in that top 5? He's at QB3 since week
What division?
4.
Give me the division. If he gives it away,
I'm
give it
not
away.
going to give it to the.
Oh, well, you're gonna give me the name anyways if I don't get it. So give me the division.
NFC East.
Sam Howell.
Sam Howell is the QB3 in fantasy since week 4. The
That's
top
impressive.
5 quarterbacks in fantasy since week 4. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Sam Howell, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. Wild stat. Great segue by Adam Tabachnik to talk about week 8's QB1 on the week. Sam Howell had 32 fantasy points.
That's insane.
You know what's crazy too? He has very similar stats to Patrick Mahomes right now. Like very similar.
I did
think it's
notice
2 less touchdowns, but you seen that thing going
Yeah,
around?
I saw.
Over the last 5 weeks, only Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts have outscored him. And he's currently a top 8 quarterback on the season. He's the 8th best quarterback in fantasy.
That's
this
impressive.
year. What do you make of Sam Howell?
Well, I think that's gonna fall off.
Whoa.
Well, you know what's funny, but the comparison there between Mahomes and Howell is good. Bieniemy, right? Eric Bieniemy went to Washington.
Little through line.
A through line. So
Oh.
obviously Bieniemy and Mahomes were great together. Andy Reid is still
Wow.
great. Don't get me wrong. But Bieniemy was there as a quarterback coach for Patrick Mahomes, or I guess as an offensive coordinator. And then now he's in Washington. Look what he does. Look what a good coach does. A good offensive coordinator. Daboll did it with Josh Allen. And now he's doing it with Sam Howell. Well, here's what I make of it. He's probably on a roster now in fantasy. Am I safe to
Actually,
say
he's
that?
on a lot of. He's available on the waiver wire for a lot of guys.
That's impressive. So maybe some of you guys are underperforming, or you had Kirk Cocaine as your quarterback,
Absolutely.
and he went down and he had to go get someone else. Maybe go get Sam Howell because he's going to have these good performances. Mind you, this was against the Eagles, who have a pretty good defense.
Yep.
That's impressive to see. He's going to have some easier matchups coming ahead. And if he did that against the Eagles, then he's really poised to do that against
Good word.
anybody, potentially. But I still am not so
Potentially.
confident to start.
No, I wouldn't be confident starting Sam Howell. I do think he can be a top 12 quarterback this season. Like, again, weapons around him, a guy that's going to air it out. You're going to live and die by Sam Howell's performances. Sometimes, like, you might have 8, you might have fucking 38 one week because of just the way that offense is formed. But if you can do it against Philadelphia, he's done it actually twice against Philadelphia now this year where he's put up really good numbers. I think Sam Howell is definitely someone you target on the waiver wire. Yeah, I mean, look, if you have Justin Fields, if you're waiting on Kyler Murray, like I think a lot of people are waiting on Kyler, but Sam Howell, what we've seen can be a formidable fantasy quarterback. So I think if you have a need at quarterback, Sam Howell is someone you should definitely target on the waiver wire. The floor is a lot lower than some other guys, but in terms of quarterbacks that will be available to add on the wire, I think he's definitely someone that should be added.
Yeah, I think if you're a guy who's dealing with injury at quarterback or something's going on there, maybe you still have Fields and you're kind of swapping between quarterbacks on a waiver, like this is a guy that you probably feel comfortable just starting for a couple weeks here and there if you have to.
Yep. I want to move into talking about some injuries. Obviously, there were a ton of injuries this week, but I want to talk about the specific impact of injuries with quarterbacks and what the fallout looks like. So I have some 4 quarterbacks that got hurt this week, obviously, were Matthew Stafford, Kirk O'Kane, Kenny Pickett, and Desmond Ridder. So what is the fallout of the Rams skill players with Matthew Stafford hurting his UCL, having a little bit of a UCL injury?
Yeah, this one I hate for both Cooper Kupp and Puka. They were both playing bad beforehand, even when Stafford was in against the Cowboys defense. That was a good defense, though. But Stafford being hurt and playing through injuries, like first off, before we go into that, what's Stafford's outlook? Do we know that?
Look, they said day to day, but I think there was an example, a player, I forgot what quarterback it was. It could even be Big Ben. But was said to be day to day with a UCL injury and ended up missing like 5 weeks.
Yeah, and Stafford's at that age where injuries do take a little bit longer to come back from. Look, I hate this for Puka and Cup. If we were talking about selling one of these guys for the past few weeks, you're probably not going to be able to sell either of them now, not for their value or what they're actually worth. I just hate this. I think the production is going to go down overall as a receiver unit. One thing we have said about this Rams offense, though, is that Sean McVay knows how to scheme up his guys, and they still will be able to do that. But keep in mind that another thing that we have talked about is that receivers who have balled out and had the type of seasons that Cooper Kupp had a couple years ago, that Puka started to have this year, have always been with Matthew Stafford. Many times, like Calvin Johnson had a great year. It was with Matthew Stafford. So I'm curious to see. I'm not so confident either way how these receivers are going to do with whoever the backup quarterback is. Brett Ripien. Even though, like, yes, the system is there, but we know that Stafford was a big part of that.
Well, I totally agree with everything you said. Great job.
Thanks, bro.
I'd say that I'm not going to panic sell. I've had a couple of people hit me up on what to do with Puka Nacua. I'm not going to panic sell only because I trust Sean McVay. Like, coaching is everything in this NFL, especially when it comes to who you're going to play. It does feel like there's a lot of backup quarterbacks in the year right now that are playing, but I'm not going to panic sell. I'm also not going to like buy or anything. I think it's a hold. I do think you downgrade them a bit, but Puka and Cooper Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp the last 2 weeks hasn't been good, but Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, I think will be okay. Maybe bump them down. If like Puka was like a wide receiver 2 in fantasy and has upside, he's now a low end wide receiver 2 because he's going to have the volume. They're both going to get the volume. I wouldn't be as concerned as I would be about the Vikings skill players without Kirk O'Kane. Obviously Kirk O'Kane is done. It's like I see the name Kirk Cousins on my computer, and then I just like out of the gate is like, because I think of producer Kondo talking about Kirk O'Chain, and now then I think Kirk O'Kane. We're gonna get flagged for saying that probably, so that's cool. What do you make of the Viking skill players with Kane?
Well, with Kane out from under center, he's not under center anymore.
WWE wrestler Kane.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Shout out to Miami Hurricanes, though. Well, the one hope you had with, like, we were talking about trading for Justin Jefferson because he's going to come back and they're going to be good. This offense is going to be all right. And if you're in a position where you can, maybe give up for a couple weeks and go win afterwards when you get Jefferson back, then go do it. Well, now, if it was Jefferson back, I'm not too excited with their quarterback situation. What's their backup?
Jaren Hall.
Yeah, I've never heard of him. And so at least Ripien, he's had some snaps in the NFL. I don't know who the fuck this guy is.
But let me pose something to you. What happens if Minnesota goes out and gets Jameis Winston, which I've seen on Twitter?
Yeah, I actually have seen that. You know what, man? I actually like this for Jameis. I think it does elevate the skill position. They don't get Jameis and they go with this guy, Jared Hall,
is the most likely.
I hate this for everybody involved. Now, the only couple guys I guess there's like 3 fantasy relevant. Now there's 4. Okay, there's a few, right? Because you have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, I guess the Cam Akers, right?
Alexander Madison, yeah.
Yeah, sort of. And so really 3 guys, the receivers and Hawkinson. Now I actually kind of hate this. Jefferson goes from being able to bounce back on a wide receiver 1 per week basis to probably not that, I think. I don't know if Ripien's going to come out and sling it.
Nope, that's the Rams. Brett Ripien, Rams, Jaren Hall.
I don't know if Hall's going to come in and sling it. Fuck these backup quarterbacks.
That's kind of, I think that's also a major point. The fact that you can't even remember who's throwing them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And so I don't know. Well, before I made the Trey McBride, Geno Smith mistake too. But here's the thing. It's like I'm down on them. I'm not really sure how to feel. I just kind of have to see, because you never know. Sometimes these quarterbacks you've never heard of come in and actually play well, like Cooper Rush last year. Yep. We've seen that happen. Brock Purdy with the Niners, right? Like last year. So maybe they play okay and the receivers are going to be all right. What we do know is that they've taken a steep decline. And now if they can get Jameis Winston, I believe in them a little bit more than I do with this backup quarterback that you mentioned, Jared Hall, whatever his name is. Then yeah, I just hate it for the Vikings.
Yeah, you got to downgrade them tremendously. Like there's like no, I would have recommended trying to trade for Jettis if they had Kirk. Oh,
Kirk O'Chain.
If I say it slowly and pause, we won't get flagged.
Kirk O'Chain.
Yeah, look, if you were gonna trade for any Viking skill players, it would kind of make sense. They're 4-4. starting to get healthy. Defense is looking better. Jettis actually made sense. He was going to come back.
Yep.
But now, why would he come back? And also, he doesn't have a contract.
Oof.
So I think you downgrade all of them. If you are a Jettis owner in fantasy, I'm also not selling because I think the value couldn't be lower.
Right.
And I think no matter what, you're just not going to get any sort of return. Now, if you could flip for maybe a Nico Collins, which we've been throwing around, which Upper Hand Fantasy I know threw around for even weeks, maybe. But I probably think you just hold with Jettis. There's not much. Hawkinson is a worry, obviously, because he was volume dependent, it felt like in fantasy. Jordan Addison is the biggest hit because he was on pace for a Rookie of the Year type of campaign. He was also kind of playing like that wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 2 with major upside in fantasy, right? Like, if anything, he was a wide receiver 2. He's been crazy these last couple of weeks. So
Crazy.
I think you downgrade them. Moving into the Steelers' weapons with Kenny Pickett, hurt his ribs. I don't know the outlook, but what are your thoughts on Kenny Pickett's rib injury while I look up information?
Okay, yeah, look up that information with Kenny Pickett. I mean, him getting hurt, mixed feelings.
Game time decision for Thursday.
All right. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, they put on Thursday night, right. So mixed feelings because he's been bad this year. He's been really bad this year, Kenny Pickett. But some of their guys have been playing very well. Like George Pickens has been doing his thing. You brought up the stat last week, over half of his games, over 80 yards or whatever it was, some shit like that. And so they've been playing well. And the thing you not only have to worry about is like, yes, the quarterback might be bad and like be out, but they have that quarterback still has a rapport with his receiver. So if receivers have been playing well over the past few weeks, even with a quarterback that isn't all that, you have to keep that in mind. And you like it. That's one of those situations where like you like it in fantasy, maybe not in real life, but you like it in fantasy. If Pickens isn't there, then you're talking about establishing a whole new rhythm with the brand new quarterback. This chemistry, this cadence that hasn't been there before. And I'm not sure who the Steelers backup is. Maybe Ben Roethlisberger, maybe Michael Vick, maybe Terry Bradshaw.
Maybe Mitchell Trubisky.
Oh, it is Mitchell Trubisky. That's right. Then, yeah, like, look, they got some PT last week with Mitch, but I don't know. Like, I'm just not high. It's kind of boring to analyze because they've always been boring, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't care who's there as the quarterback. I care about Matt Canada. And as long as
That's
Matt Canada is the OC, I'm always downgrading those skill position players.
Yeah, but again, like Pickens has been playing well for the most part.
But he's also been dependent on these big plays. And, it's not volume. I'd rather rely on Deontay Johnson, even though he can't stay healthy, but know that he's going to see volume. I want to go into Falcons, obviously, with Desmond Ritter's concussion. Now, it was said that Desmond Ridder was actually cleared to return, but that Arthur Smith kept him out and Taylor Heineke was in.
Nice.
If Taylor Heineke's the quarterback, best case scenario for the entire Falcons offense. Upgrade every single weapon. He's going to air it out.
Yes.
That is best case scenario if you have Drake London, even Kyle Pitts, who hasn't been good, but you know a quarterback is going to try and feed him. You know the talent. Taylor Heineke's a smart guy. He performed in Washington.
Yes.
So I think that's a best case scenario.
I totally agree. Desmond Ridder, look, the Falcons actually they were winning with him, but they weren't winning because he was necessarily elevating his teammates, especially as a passer. They're winning because they could utilize his legs. Like he could run. Adam, you don't think he's athletic? I think he's very athletic. So we agree to disagree there. But anyway, he was a good runner, and that was Arthur Smith's style. Like they were able to use him that way. Well, he was not a good passer. He didn't elevate his targets and his weapons whatsoever. Heineke, on the other hand, does. And like you mentioned last year, Heineke and Washington, the games that he did play, which were like some in there. Curtis Samuel had good games. Terry McLaurin had good games. And he's going to be able to do the same thing in Atlanta. I think it's an upgrade for every weapon that you have in Atlanta, especially Drake London. I mean, that's a guy who's going to get fed more and is going to actually be looked at when he's open. So I think Heineke in Atlanta, hopefully this is a sign for things to come because I just think he's better than Ridder regardless, especially just as a pure quarterback, pure Kurt Cocaine. And in that case, if you have Falcons skill positions, I think it's a good sign.
That one slid under the radar, but Kondo heard that one in the headphones. Let's move into talking about the Titans. The thing I like to talk about is life as a Titan. So
life as a Titan.
I'm curious because Will Levis had an amazing game. He was QB6 on the week, 26.6 fantasy points, 4 TDs.
4 tutties.
First of all, what do you make of Will Levis's performance?
I think he's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Oh.
If you have Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, every great skill position, you should trade him for Will Levis, like 6-1. No, Will Levis actually did ball out though, and he looked good.
You're hilarious.
He had this type of ceiling, and it wasn't even that funny. He had the type of ceiling that no Titans quarterback has ever had. Like, let's be real, like in the recent past, I guess. Like Tannehill had never provided you that. Even with AJ Brown when he was there, he was held back by
quarterback play.
By quarterback play, not because Tannehill was bad, but it's just because he didn't want to air it out. Well, Levis wants to air it out. He did yesterday. We just had Dave Kluge come on, and I guess you got to listen to the Wednesday episode, which is about to come out. But he just came on and talked about air yards per attempt or some shit like that. Some nice advanced analytics. Not that advanced, but
it was pretty advanced.
He gets the ball down deep, right? And down deep. Wow. Yeah. Play the shit out of that one. And he's efficient. He's getting his air yards, obviously. The balls are going deep. He's scoring touchdowns. I think he's gonna keep it going. And like the one thing you love to see
is that I'm just laughing at your laughter. I'm not even laughing at what you said.
Not only are the balls going deep, but they're going deep inside of Diop. Diop is the biggest beneficiary from. I like this Titan offense. Upgrade everybody. Will Levis is him. How do you feel about it, Adam?
I think I'm gonna throw up. Oh God, we're 4 years old and I love it. Holy shit.
Will Levis is him. Woo. That's my takeaway.
I got nothing else to add to that. I mean, just so many deep balls.
Deep balls to DeAndre Hopkins. And what's underrated is that Derrick Henry had 100+ yards rushing. When you can air it deep, bro. When you can go deep inside that defense, penetrate that defense, what it allows you to do is run the football up the gut. Not only are you attacking through the air, you're attacking right in the guts of the defense. Derrick Henry benefited. DeAndre Hopkins benefited.
I don't like it anymore. I don't like it at all anymore.
Will Levis benefited. I'm telling you, everybody on the offense, buy them now because the Titans are here and they're here to stay. On a real note, aside from fantasy, they're a team that's going to penetrate in the playoffs as well. I like this team. I like them in the AFC South now. I like them.
Okay. All right. Beautiful. Well said.
Appreciate that.
Amazing job. Amazing analysis on what happened with Will Levis. Let's move into talking about tight ends.
Wow. Natural transition. Of course.
Fuck, bro. I got to go home. I want to talk about some tight ends. The young tight ends. It's the year of the young tight ends.
It is. I'm actually super excited about
in
this.
Week 8. In Week 8, bro. 4 tight ends in there. You said Jake Ferguson is his second year, right?
Correct.
Sophomore season.
Yeah.
Either a rookie tight end or sophomore season.
Right.
4 of the top 12 tight ends were 2 years into the league or less.
Yes.
Dalton Kincaid had 17.5 fantasy points.
Insane.
Trey McBride had 25.5 fantasy points. Sam Laporta 19.7. Jake Ferguson was tight end 11, had 14.7. Obviously was benefited from that touchdown. But what do you make of some of these young tight ends having good days?
Absolutely love it, especially in a time where we're deprived of that elite group of tight ends. You never know. You got Travis Kelce, and that's pretty much it for the past couple years. I mean, Mark Andrews would show up pretty consistently. Then George Kittle, you never knew. Darren Waller, injuries, but now you like to see don't forget. Now you get to see these young tight ends actually produce, and they're producing on a consistent basis. I mean, yes, Kincaid. This was his best game, but the game before that, when he started to see a higher target share, because I think Dawson Knox got hurt, he already started elevating his game. And, with a guy like that, you just like to see him get volume because he had the draft capital, and it's just a matter of time. Same with Trey McBride. I will say biggest shout out to Adam Tabachnik with Trey McBride because last year before the NFL season, he hadn't even played a down of NFL football. He had just gotten drafted by the Cardinals. Where did he play football at?
Colorado State University.
Colorado State. Adam said, watch out for this kid. He's going to be good. I don't know if it's this year because he might not get the type of volume there, but he's a good play. So I drafted him in Dynasty last year. Last year. Obviously, he was on the taxi squad, never brought him out, but I was excited for the future. And now Zach Ertz out the lineup because he's hurt, I believe. Is he hurt?
On IR.
On IR, which should have happened a while ago. Trey McBride is the more talented tight end, and now he's balling out. So shout out to you with that call. That's a year old. So you're early on Puka. You're early on him. And then the other guys, Sam Laporta's been balling this whole time. And yeah, Jake Ferguson in Dallas is good to see. I don't know. he's the one I'm least excited about.
Totally.
We talked
but
about
it's just he's a young tight end.
He's a young tight end that's balling. In Dallas, you just kind of have a lot of tight ends there in the mix. So, but these other 3 tight ends, though, I mean, Kincaid, McBride, and Laporta, you're starting all 3. Whoever you have, you're starting on.
I agree.
And I have a problem because I have 2 of these tight ends. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the reaction to those tight ends isn't that you have to start them, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's always been about volume. Dawson Knox was in front of Dalton Kincaid. Then you had Zach Ertz in front of Trey McBride, both of which go on IR. These guys naturally have a boom. So I expect Trey McBride actually to be the guy that keeps this up more than Dalton Kincaid, only because the Cardinals were throwing to tight ends the 3rd most in the NFL.
Oh,
now, granted, that could change with Kyler Murray eventually coming back, and this week is Clayton Tune, and I don't even know who the fuck Clayton Tune is. But Jonathan Gannon said he's likely going to start, and Kyler Murray will be back next week. Mm-hmm. But I do think that no matter what, both of these guys have top 12 tight end, potential tight end 1 on the year.
Agreed.
You're going to start them no matter what. I got Kittle and Kincaid in one of my leagues. I'm even considering putting Kincaid at one of my flexes because it's a 2-flex league. And it's just the way fantasy.
I would even say Kincaid has a safer floor than Kittle. Because, yes, Kittle has this potential to explode, absolutely.
But less mouths to feed.
Yeah, less mouths to feed. And we've seen Kittle just go boom or bust, boom or bust, boom or bust. Whereas, and a lot of times it's more boom than, or it's more bust than boom. Whereas Kincaid, we know he's going to get his targets because Knox was getting his targets beforehand. And so, and I think he has the potential to pop as well. So I'm really happy about the tight end landscape. I feel like we're finally starting to get in a comfortable position where you have a good variety of guys that can get it done.
Yeah, I mean, last note on that is I feel like so many fantasy experts would be like, you can't trust these rookie tight ends because rookie tight ends tend to take longer to pan out in the NFL. The problem is most of these NFL draft classes haven't had a stacked tight end class.
That's
so
true.
The sample size has always been super small
Right.
on rookie tight ends coming into the league. Now you have 5 to 6 rookie tight ends come in that are each potential stars, even from Michael Mayer in there, right? Who had a good week 2 weeks ago, hasn't performed, but that whole offense is bad in Vegas.
Yep.
So I think the sample size on young tight ends is going to change based off of this year. And it's, especially if you have them in Dynasty, it's fantastic. Moving into our last segment of today, which is Week 8's Panic Meter. So we've never done something like this, but I wanted to change the format because I think there's necessary panic in fantasy right now, especially after 8 weeks. Now's the time this is the month of the trade deadline for a lot of people. Now's your time to go get it. We talked about teams being 5-3, 4-4, 3-5. So I want to go into Week 8's Panic Meter on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to name you, a bunch of players. You're going to tell me what number you associate with their panic, and then you and I will go back and forth and talk about it. Nice. So let's start with Davante Adams. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you panicking on Davante?
6. I'm not overly concerned. Yes, he's had a couple bad games, not because of him, because of his quarterback and because of the offensive situation, but we've also seen him have good games. And one thing we know about receivers like Davante Adams or just elite receivers is after a bad game like that maybe it's not even his fault, maybe the quarterback's fault, they're going to get fed, and they're going to make sure they get fed early. And those are going to be on easy routes. Like those are going to be on screens, slants, quick outs. He's going to get his. And so I'm not necessarily worried this season, even though, yes, you wanted him to get traded. He's looking like he's not going to get traded. Even still, the Raiders are going to have to utilize their best player. I'm not overly panicking on Davante.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the 6. I think he still had 7 targets. We saw if Jimmy G doesn't suck, he has 2 touchdowns that go over 65 yards.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I don't think he's got to fix that too. Jimmy G, we know, has had bad games in the past, and he fixes it the next week. He plays well. That's going to happen.
Here's the logic for panicking. He had 1 catch for 11 yards. He's had fewer than 5 fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games, and less than 9 in 3 of his last 4. He had 42.2 PPR points in week 3, and he's had 43.7 since.
Yeah.
So he's fallen off.
Yeah.
Easy case of buy low, honestly.
I would say so, yeah.
And only because you want upside, right? We started this whole entire episode talking about you need higher ceilings potentially to win in fantasy this 100%. Year, unless you have just a team with safe floors. But because of the lack of consistency in fantasy, you are going to need to raise your ceilings. Davante is someone that can do that. I agree with the 6 range. Another person I want to bring up, your guy, Tony Pollard. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you panicking on Tony Pollard?
Man, maybe I'm just conservative. But I think 6 to 7. Like, I think it's in a similar range. I'm not happy at all with what Pollard has given me, and I have him on my fantasy team. But this offense finally looked good this past week. And granted, he still didn't have a great performance, even when it looked good. But I think it's a matter. I know we've been saying for a while. So I mean, look, he's not an RB1, like by no means.
Yeah, you downgrade him to an RB2.
He's
right?
an RB2 for sure, but
with massive upside.
With massive upside, and so I still like that. I'll say 7. I'm a little bit more worried about him because look, there was even rumors about the Cowboys trying to go get Derrick Henry or something like that. I don't know if they're going to go make a move like that, but if they're winning and McCarthy's finally calling good plays and he's not necessarily getting that much like volume or just involvement in general, then there's reason to be concerned. So I'll say 7. The reason it's not higher than 7 is because he's still on an offense that has the capability to be really good, and he's still a very useful piece. And I think maybe even getting another guy that can take more volume off of those early down plays or like short yardage situation like the Cowboys had Zeke last year, that could actually help him. So even if they do that, then it can help him be more explosive on the plays that he does get.
Yeah, I mean, he had a season low for context. Season low, 6.5 PPR points. Third time in his last 4 he scored in the single digits. He hasn't topped 53 rushing yards since week 3.
Yeah.
Easy case of also buy low. Again, someone with a super high ceiling. I saw a stat that up until week 8 of this year and last year, he's averaging the exact same amount of fantasy points. Now, granted, Zeke was there, but both averaged the same amount. I believe Tony Pollard finished the season as the RB4.
Dude, he popped off in the second half of the season.
He popped off. And I think, look, the same goes with the NFL. It takes time to figure things out. He was thrusted into a new role.
Yes.
Easy buy low.
New offense too, right?
Yeah. I would probably put him at a 6 on the panic meter.
Okay.
Definitely someone I'm concerned about because he's had volume and hasn't been able to perform. But then again, naturally, I think positive regression comes with Tony Pollard. Another 2 guys here for you. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you with them?
I would go...
And to add context, obviously Stafford likely out. Cooper Kupp finished with less than 30 yards in the last 2 games.
I'll go 4 or 5. I not entirely. I'm like, I don't like what I'm seeing, especially with Stafford dealing with that. But as we said, like he's questionable for this upcoming week. So Stafford can still come back and play. And I trust Stafford in this offense to get it to these receivers. I know it was a bad game. Dude, it was a bad game against a really good defense that has played lights out at home. You saw what they did to the Jets at home. You saw what they did to the Patriots at home. They just continue to do it to the Rams. They're not going to face many defenses like the Cowboys. And I think we've seen more good than bad from Puka especially, and even Cooper Kupp over the past few years sample size with Stafford. You've seen a lot more good than bad. I'm not too worried about them, even though it's been a bad couple weeks.
Yep. Puka Nacua, wide receiver 4, still on the year after a couple bad weeks. I think I put him at like a 3.
Yeah.
Granted, Stafford out, yes, but I trust coaching. And I think here's a good example that I would compare it to is that Zay Flowers is someone that has had volume, but the types of volume that he hasn't really translated to massive fantasy success.
Right.
And I do credit that to a Todd Monken, someone that isn't as experienced when it comes to play calling. Now, granted, obviously, offensive coordinator did it at Georgia and everything, but in the NFL, it's very different. Has a quarterback to throw it to him. On the other hand, we saw Stafford with Puka, who an older quarterback, but also targeting a rookie who's looked good. Now I still trust Sean McVay to figure it out. I still expect him to scheme up Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I'm not worried, but I do have a wild Cooper Kupp stat for you in fantasy that I didn't include for you to see. So can you guess the year it was the last time Cooper Kupp had less than 30 yards in a football game?
Oh, shit. He just had 20-something, right?
Yep.
The last year, okay, so this year is the 2023 season, right? So last year was 2022. 2021, he played. Is that the year he had a last time he played? He had an injury at some point. All right, let me just go out and say 2019.
So close. It was 2020 in week 6 was the last time Cooper Kupp had less than 30 yards in a game.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Injury or not, I expect him to be fine. I'm not panicking on Cooper Kupp just yet.
Fine.
3 other guys on our panic meter. DJ Moore, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you panicking on him?
Well, I'm looking at the stat you put right here. So 49 PPR points. Well, in the 3 weeks, week 5, he had 49. In 3 weeks since, he's had 33 PPR points total. Well, it's also been without
Justin Fields.
Fields is coming back soon. I don't think it's this week, but it might be the week after. And their rapport was actually starting to materialize into something very special. You like that? That was a nice special use of wordage there. And they were looking great. Like Justin Fields' passer rating was perfect going to DJ Moore throughout the season, all this kind of stuff. They're going to get him the ball. He's the best player on their team. I'm not worried about DJ at all. So 1 out of 10, I'd probably go I'd probably go 3.
I'll say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I'll say 3.
He's gonna get his.
He's going to get his. And again, I think the problem with anyone wanting to panic on DJ Moore is him having 49 fantasy points in 1 week at all is not equivalent of what he actually was going to be in fantasy this year, right?
No.
He was a wide receiver 2. I think he's going to be fine. But if you're attaching yourself to 49 fantasy points, he's never going to do that again. Now, granted, the ceiling can be there, but I'm not panicking on DJ Moore just yet. 2 other guys, Kenneth Walker, scale 1 to 10. How much are you panicking on him? Now, for context, season low, 44% of carries. He did still average 8 yards per carry, but he had a season low, and Charbonnet obviously had an uptick in usage. Now, people can say about the injury with Kenneth Walker. People can talk about, Kenneth Walker still getting goal line touches. I don't think you're panicking on Kenneth Walker for a very simple reason of he's going to get goal line carries no matter what. And to be honest, in fantasy, I want that floor in a time where running backs don't have any consistency. But what are you saying?
Yeah, I think maybe like a 3. Like, I'm not too worried, especially because his efficiency is still very high. Now, Charbonnet, who I love, his efficiency was even better. Kenneth, I think, averaged 8 yards a carry. Charbonnet, I think, averaged 11. Like, I think I saw that the other day.
Numbers.
Yeah, it's insane. So it makes sense why they're starting to split that. And the part of the reason I'm not too concerned is because you should have seen this coming going into the year. They drafted Charbonnet in the 2nd round. He was a complete running back who's better in the passing game than Walker is bigger than Walker. So the one area I would be concerned is, yes, Walker's still getting those goal line carries. I don't know if that's going to continue. Charbonnet's the bigger back. He weighs about, I think he's like 230. He's a big guy that can get it done in all facets of the game. So the reason I'm not worried is because Walker is built off explosiveness. He's still going to have that, and he's still going to be utilized in that way. I think you're going to be okay. Granted, like, he's going to get some less touches, I think, going forward, but you should have seen that coming. So I would say a 3.
Again, the way the running backs are, a good buy low spot as well.
Yeah.
Last but not least, on our panic meter, Aaron Jones, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you panicking?
Shit. Probably higher, like 7. Like, because if they
might even be higher. It might be like 8.5.
Yeah, it might be high. Yeah, it might be higher. I mean, if he hasn't been able to get it done over the past couple of weeks, we've been expecting him to against the Broncos. We expect him to this past week. Who did they even play this past week? The Vikings. And what he did nothing.
I mean, he only had, I think he had like 7 carries.
Right.
He hasn't reached 60 total yards in 2 straight weeks.
Yeah, and before he was dealing with injuries, and it's just tough. Like, Aaron Jones, every year you draft him with great value. Like, he always drops, and you always get way more than what you drafted him for. And I think this is the first year you're probably not going to get that out of him. You've been hoping this Packers offense is going to get it together. They haven't been. They've been getting worse. So, yeah, I think you're right to be around like an 8.5. It's still hard to, like, when you have him on your roster, to not start him somewhere in there, whether it's like RB2 or flex. But you might get into territory where you're going to put other guys in there, like, because other guys are performing that weren't supposed to. And you might be in a tricky situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the highest on this panic meter, no matter what. The offense is getting worse. He's not getting touches. They're losing games. Best case scenario is he would get traded today at the deadline. Not going to happen, though.
Not gonna happen.
But the one optimistic look I can make for Aaron Jones would be look at kind of Javonte Williams, where first like 6 weeks, people have been like, bust, hasn't done anything. Usage has been increasing, volume and, routes run, everything has been increasing. Finally pops off, has 18 fantasy points this week. People put him now back in like the top 15 running backs for rest of season. Aaron Jones' talent's always been there. So if we maybe give him that volume, we'll see that upside that we think. I think no matter what, RB3 right now, just given what he's been able to do, easily can go back to an RB2 and finish potentially as a low-end RB1. I think that's always in the realm of outcomes. The range of outcomes for Aaron Jones, but the panic meter is by far 8.5 and the highest out of any player.
Shout out Texas, El Paso.
Shout out Hairlines. He's got a really bad one.
Does he? No, he doesn't.
No, he's got a really bad. It's
just high.
It's really high. Yeah.
I think Aaron Jones is underratedly handsome. I don't know about the hairline.
That is crazy.
Oh,
that is
you know what? I'm used to seeing him with the band, the headband.
Yeah, that I get. Good jawline. But no.
Okay.
Bad hairline. Oops. So that's our week 8 fantasy recaps episode. Shout out everyone that's been watching for the last 45 minutes. What did we miss? Comment down below, maybe. As a reminder, not as many comments as I would have liked. As a reminder, we have our cafeteria episode that drops tomorrow. We had Dave Kluge, fantasy expert, on the pod, so make sure to check that out. You can check him out at Dave Kluge on Twitter. You can see how big he is. He's massive. We talked fantasy football. We talked through some hypothetical trades we'd love to see. So it was a really good episode. Felipe dropped his power rankings. And then Thursday, we'll be back at 10:30 a.m. I believe we will be doing our fantasy episode. I know we switched the timing and it was at 12:30 today, but we'll be back at 10:30 a.m. We'll do our buy low, sell high episode. And then at 5 o'clock on Thursday, we'll do our start sits for anyone that has start sit questions. But hey, this was a good episode. There was a lot of value. I think we talked about a lot of tight ends, a lot of
tight ends,
balls being thrown around.
Yeah, a lot of penetration.
So, before we sign off, as we do every Tuesday and Thursday episode, Felipe, please hit us with our words of the day.
All right, before I do that, I've been looking at Aaron Jones' hairline while you've been talking for the past couple of minutes, dude. It's really bad.
It's bad.
It's like the middle of his head type
it's
shit.
Like you need to go to Turkey and have a hair transplant type bad.
Why Turkey though?
Because that's really where the hair transplants are.
Got it.
A lot of people go there. Yep.
Yeah. So pray for Aaron Jones. Words of wisdom, words of the day.
You got this. Don't overthink it.
Trade for Trey McBride.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, don't trade for him actually. But hey, Trey McBride, tight end 1 season upcoming. So is Don Kincaid. Don't sleep.
Shout out
All right.
your dynasty team. We'll see you tomorrow for our cafeteria episode. Love
Bye.
you.